Good morning. We are on the record at 10:09 a.m. Pacific Time on August 11th, 2021, to begin the deposition of Deputy Jaime Juarez in the matter of Gonzalez versus County of Los Angeles. This case is venued in Superior Court of the State of California, County of Los Angeles, Central District. The case number is 20STC-V35594. This deposition is taking place via Steno Connect platform, and the legal videographer is Connor Wright, here on behalf of Steno, and the court reporter is Julie Rumsey, also here on behalf of Steno. Would counsel please identify yourselves and state whom you represent?
Alan Romero, and I have Desiree Garrity from my office on behalf of the plaintiff, Officer Deputy Gonzalez, who's present and on video.
Good morning. This is Mira Hashmall for the County of Los Angeles and the witness.
Okay. Thank you, counsel. Would the reporter please swear in the witness?
Good morning. My name is Julie Rumsey, California Certified Shorthand Reporter number 14144. The stenographic record is the official record pursuant to CCP 2025. Sir, would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony you are about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Mr. Romero, you are muted.
Thank you. Deputy Juarez, I'm going to share an exhibit with you. I'd like you to tell me what it is. So let me present it. Can you see that exhibit?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a logo, 4 places in this exhibit. I represent this as a photo taken by the plaintiff at Compton Station last year. We see a skeleton-like figure on a charging pad, a pencil holder, a computer mouse, and a computer pad. Do you see that logo 4 times?
Objection. This line of inquiry is not reasonably calculated to lead to admissible evidence or relevant inquiry in connection with this case, and I instruct the witness not to answer.
Okay, so that's number 1. We actually have an over-under in the office of how many questions you'll tell him not to answer. I think I'm going to win.
Well, if you actually conducted this deposition on matters relevant to your client's claims, I think that they would proceed efficiently. If you intend to use this deposition to harass my witness or to pursue lines of inquiry that are not relevant to the case, then I'm going to object.
Okay. Well, Deputy Juarez, it appears that your attorney is on the side of not disclosing this information in this case. Are you going to take your attorney's advice and not answer this question?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Have you ever seen this logo before?
Objection. Seeking information not relevant to the matters in the case, instruct the witness not to answer.
That's question number 2 of the deposition. It's the second question that your attorney has advised you not to answer. Are you going to take her advice?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Deputy Juarez, are you aware that there's a duty of candor in the Manual of Policies and Procedures? Let me rephrase that.
I'm sorry. Yeah, please.
So there is a Manual of Policies and Procedures that's applicable to all sheriff's deputies, isn't there?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware that there's a duty of candor in that Manual of Policies and Procedures that deputies must abide by?
Candor, I'm not too sure what that word means, sir.
Okay. Well, I can read it to you from a dictionary, so let's do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Candor is, from the Oxford Dictionary, the quality of being open and honest in expression and frankness. So, do you know if there's a duty to be candid in sworn testimony under the Manual of Policies and Procedures propagated by the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Romero, can you remove the exhibit from the screen share? I think it's distracting.
No, I'm not done with this line of questioning. So, do you understand that there's a duty of honesty under the Manual of Policies and Procedures? In fact, I will take it down temporarily. Deputy Juarez, are you aware there's a duty to provide truthful and honest testimony pursuant to the LA County Sheriff's Department Manual of Policies and Procedures?
Yes.
Okay. And have you always abided by that policy of honesty in all your previous testimony under oath?
Yes.
Okay. Is it true that you testified in a previous deposition with another attorney that you had never seen that logo before?
Objection. Seeking inquiry not relevant to the case. I instruct the witness not to answer.
Okay, well, Ms. Hashmall, you've been doing this a long time. I would hope that you would know that relevance is not a proper pretrial objection. The proper objection, which I won't tell you now because it's not my job, but certainly I can assure you that relevance is never an appropriate pretrial objection, and I would ask you to refrain from making improper pretrial objections, or number 3, refuse to answer.
We can agree to disagree, counsel. This case is about your client and whether or not he was retaliated in 2020.
No,
You have yet to ask a single question relevant to your client or this case.
No,
if this deposition is intended to harass my witness, I'm going to adjourn it.
Well, you're welcome to do that anytime. And I think that the whole world is watching this case. I believe that this is a case involving a racist entity within a police department, which retaliated against my client. And if you're afraid to answer questions, I'm not surprised. So this is 2021. I think you're on the wrong side of history. I think what you're doing is disgusting by refusing him to let him answer questions, because I know he can't answer these questions. So Deputy Juarez, is it true that you previously provided testimony about that logo in previous depositions, that you gave sworn testimony?
Objection. Not seeking information reasonably calculated to lead to admissible evidence in this case, instruct the witness not to answer.
Well, I'm glad you got the right objection this time. So, Jaime, Mr. Deputy Juarez, are you going to take your attorney's advice for the 4th time and not answer my question?
I am.
Okay, so you're not going to tell me that about what is already in the record in a previous deposition? You think you have the right to not tell me about what you previously testified to under penalty of perjury?
Objection, argumentative, and inappropriate. Again, counsel, you have an opportunity to conduct this deposition on matters that are actually pertinent to your client's case. I would assume that your client would like this to be about his case and not you grandstanding about a different case. Like, if you continue this line of inquiry, I'm going to continue to instruct not to answer.
That's number 5, and I'd like the record to reflect that Mira Hashmall has done more talking than her client, so I'd ask her to please stop. If she has objections, please enter them. Otherwise, you're being obstreperous, as what you have a habit of doing, and you're interfering with my deposition and making this impossible. And I hope you're held accountable for that. So, Deputy Juarez, it's the 5th instruction not to answer, and we've only been going about 5 minutes. Are you going to take your attorney's recommendation not to answer?
I am.
Okay. So I would represent, and please tell me if I'm wrong, that in a previous deposition, you said you had never seen that logo before. And now that goes into my next question. Let me put another exhibit. Give me one moment to, all right. Let's show you, whoops. I believe we're having a technical difficulty here. So anyone on the technical side, I have Exhibit 2. It's not giving me an option to present. I see view and download, so I need some help here. Why won't Exhibit 2?
What type of file is it, may I ask?
Let's see. Exhibit 2. Is a GIF file. So let me try and remove. Can we remove Exhibit 2, or is it too late to do that?
It'll stay, so just you can either relabel it, or you can share your screen if you want to open it on your desktop.
All right,
you can.
Let's do it. Okay, screen share. All right. Isn't this a picture of your truck from your social media, Deputy Juarez?
Objection, not reasonably calculated to lead to admissible evidence. Instruct the witness not to answer.
That's the 6th strike. So, Deputy Juarez, will you even admit that this is your truck that you put on your social media? Will you at least tell me that?
Objection, not reasonably calculated to lead to admissible evidence. Instruct the witness not to answer.
Are you going to take your attorney's advice?
I am.
Okay. All right. And for the record, Exhibit 2 we'd represent is a picture of Deputy Jaime Juarez's truck that he posted on his Instagram account that has a flag with a skeleton, a Nazi helmet, and an AK. It says 28 Compton, California. So the question is, Deputy Juarez, if you said you've never seen this logo before, why is the flag on your truck?
Objection, not reasonably calculated to lead to admissible evidence, instruct the witness not to answer.
So that's the 7th time your attorney's instructed you not to answer. I hope you're embarrassed because I'm embarrassed for the both of you. Are you going to answer that question about your truck?
Yes, I'm not going to answer. I'm going to follow my attorney's advice.
Okay. You know, I think we're number 7. I think I've asked 9 questions and I've got 7 refusals to answer. So I'm going to adjourn this deposition. I knew this was going to happen. I apologize to Deputy Gonzalez and to our court reporters who had to waste their time by coming here just for a petty game where they're going to refuse to answer every question. So
just so we're clear.
Please don't, let me finish, and then I'll let you talk. Okay. So we have 7 refusals to answer. I can't even get Deputy Juarez to even say, this is his truck or this is his photo. He won't even admit that he has social media. This is an abuse of the discovery process. And I think it's a violation of the LASD Manuals of Policy and Procedures. So we're going to have to get the court to intervene. Go ahead, Ms. Hashmall.
Yes. So Deputy Juarez is here to testify in connection with Mr. Gonzalez's employment case. There has yet to be a single question about his interactions with the plaintiff, their work environment, their experience, their communications, their communications in any respect with regards to the Compton station or the issues in the plaintiff's allegations. This deposition could be proceeding on those relevant grounds, and Deputy Juarez made himself available in order to answer legitimate questions reasonably calculated to address the issues in this case. Plaintiff's counsel, for reasons only he knows, has chosen not to ask a single question about his own client and his communications with the witness or any information relating to his allegations regarding 2020 issues at the Compton station. I ask you, counsel, to reconsider your approach. This is a deposition that could be proceeding reasonably and appropriately on matters relevant to the case. Of course, it's your choice to adjourn, but I want the record to be clear that Deputy Juarez is here and able to answer questions about your client and his case.
Let me just say that this is probably the most disgusting behavior I've ever had from an attorney. Just for the record, Ms. Hashmall's reading that off her screen. So she knew she was going to do this to me, and she knew I was going to call the deposition. She knew she was going to make this impossible. We have Deputy Juarez smirking at the camera. So they're in cahoots. This is a waste of our time, and I really hope the judge really hammers you on this because the whole world deserves answers. My client deserves answers. 5 minutes ago, you thought relevance was an appropriate discovery objection, pre-trial, which it's not. So this is a little game we've played today. We've come here. You've wasted our time. You've wasted our money just so you could be obstreperous. You had 7 refusals to answer. You're not letting him answer even questions about does he have social media. And then you read a script that you had prepared knowing you were going to tank this deposition.
I'm not reading a script, sir. You don't know me. I'm just speaking directly to the fact that you're not conducting a deposition about your client's case. That's your professional judgment. I'm sure he'll wonder why you have not used this time to actually diligently pursue issues relating to this case. That's your choice. As I said, Deputy Juarez is ready, willing, and able to testify about matters reasonably calculated to lead to admissible evidence in this case about your client and his employment claims. You've chosen not to ask any of those questions.
I can't because you refuse. Let's call this this is a waste of time. I can assure you my client knows exactly what's going on. He probably is disgusted as I am. So we're calling the deposition. The deposition is 10:24 a.m. And at this point, we're going off the record. I'm suspending the deposition with reservation of rights to continue the deposition after obtaining an order of court compelling the deponent to answer the questions, which I'd asked
We're still on the record. You're still on the record.
It's just a visual. That was my bad. That was misclicked.
Okay. So we're reserving the right to continue the deposition. The deposition is suspended. We're going to go into court and get an order compelling. And I'm also going to use this in support of our motion to continue the MSJ opposition date and the trial date, given the fact that we can't even get Deputy Juarez or the county, who has basically given us no discovery and has just obstructed us in every way at a huge waste of tax dollars. I may add, millions of dollars of tax dollars are being wasted on this. So that's it. We're off the record. Thank you.
Oh, no, I'm not done here. So just so we're clear, you have chosen not to proceed diligently with this inquiry. There are any number of questions actually germane to this lawsuit that you could be asking today. You have chosen not to. We are going to oppose any attempt to burden Deputy Juarez and take him away from his responsibilities to the department because you have not used this time allocated for this deposition to pursue relevant, admissible information.
Okay. On that note, let's ask him a few more questions that you're going to. So let's see if I get my over under on the refuse to answer. Okay, let's do another one. Deputy Juarez. Okay. Exhibit 3. Have you ever seen this picture before, Deputy Juarez?
No.
Okay. I'd represent this as a dead. Do you know who Thomas Banuelos is, Deputy Juarez?
I do.
Who is Thomas Banuelos?
You were the deputy that was I worked with assigned to Compton Station.
Okay. Isn't it true that Deputy Banuelos was assaulted by another deputy named Eugene Contreras?
I wouldn't know, sir.
Is it your testimony that you don't know if Deputy Contreras assaulted Deputy Banuelos?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware of any physical interaction where they put hands on each other between Banuelos and Contreras?
No, not to my knowledge.
Okay. Is Deputy Contreras still assigned to Compton Station?
No, he's not.
Why is that?
Objection calls for speculation. Deputy Juarez, testify to the best of your ability based on what you know.
Stop. Please stop. If you have an objection, make it. Stop coaching him. Go ahead. Why is Contreras not there?
Counsel, your behavior is inappropriate. You're not going to lecture me on my practice of law, and I'm not going to lecture you. Let me finish my statements on the record so Madam Court Reporter can have a clean transcript.
So we've already established your attorney doesn't know the correct objections. So she's now trying to interfere with my deposition, so I'm going to ignore her because there's nothing pertinent that she has to say. So why is Contreras no longer at Compton?
Objection calls for speculation. Answer to the best of your ability.
I believe he was fired. I'm not sure.
Oh, how long have you known Deputy Contreras?
Since 2010, 2011.
Okay. Were you ever partnered up with Deputy Contreras?
No.
Okay. How many years did you work directly with Deputy Contreras?
I don't think I ever, maybe the last year I was there, or last year, 2019, maybe.
The last year you were where?
At Compton Station.
Okay. Do you know if Deputy Juarez has the tattoo that I showed you earlier?
Objection. Not reasonably calculated to lead to admissible evidence. Instruct the witness not to answer.
That's number 8. Are you going to take your attorney's advice?
I am.
Okay. Do you know if Deputy Contreras has any tattoos that you've seen?
Objection. Not reasonably calculated to lead to admissible evidence. Instruct the witness not to answer.
That's number 9. Are you going to take your attorney's advice?
Yes, sir.
Why is Deputy Contreras being fired?
Objection calls for speculation. Answer to the best of your ability.
I don't know, sir.
Did you ask him?
No.
Weren't you curious why? Let me strike that. Do you have Deputy Contreras's phone number in your phone?
I do.
What is that phone number?
Objection. That's the third-party privacy. I instruct the witness not to provide that individual's personal information.
That's number 10. Are you going to accept your attorney's advice not to answer?
I am.
Okay. When's the last time you communicated with Deputy Contreras?
I think about 2 weeks ago, sir.
Okay. And what was the substance of that communication? What did you talk about?
I don't recall exactly what we spoke about, sir.
Okay. How do you know that Deputy Contreras is being fired? Or let me rephrase that. Is Deputy Contreras being fired, or he's been given a notice of intent to terminate? Do you know?
I don't know where the process is, sir.
Okay. Well, is he still a deputy, or is he fired? Do you know?
I don't.
Who told you that Deputy Contreras is being fired?
It was, I don't recall which deputy told me, but I heard he was getting fired.
And when did you hear that?
About a month ago, I believe.
Okay.
2 months ago.
Are you aware that there's a collection is or is not a collection being passed around at Compton Station to collect money on behalf of Deputy Contreras in the last few months?
Yes.
And what can you tell me about that?
There was a collection for Deputy Contreras.
And how do you know that?
Because they, I believe it was a Deputy Jonathan Harris told me about it.
Okay. And when did Deputy Jonathan Harris tell you about that?
I believe it was about 2 months ago.
Okay. Are you aware of any other collections for deputies at Compton Station who were fired from Compton Station in the past?
Yes.
Who else had collections for them after they were fired at Compton Station?
It's really not just for being fired. There's also collections for like deputies that get days off as well.
Have you been involved in organizing any of those collections at Compton Station?
Yes.
Which ones were you involved in?
So involved with, well, I donated to pretty much everyone that I organized or helped out with was Deputy or ex-Deputy Orrego.
What's Deputy Orrego's first name?
Mizrain, Mizrain, I believe.
Okay. And what was he fired for?
I don't know the exact policy violation, sir.
Okay. Do you know if he had the tattoo that we're going to refer to as the executioner's tattoo?
Objection, not reasonably calculated to lead to admissible evidence. Instruct the witness not to answer.
So that's the 11th time you've been instructed not to answer. It's certainly not based on privilege. Are you going to take your attorney's advice?
I am.
Let's see. Let's do another exhibit. Hold on. I'm going to share an exhibit with you. Oh, it's not showing. Hold on. Technical difficulties. Oh, there it is. Have you ever seen what's depicted in this photo? Do you know what we're looking at? Let me strike that. Let me tell you. So I would represent, and I'm going to ask the deponent to authenticate, that this is the keypad to get into the parking lot of Compton Sheriff Station. Is that accurate, Deputy Juarez?
Yes.
Okay. How many times have you used this keypad?
I lost track, sir. Thousands.
Do you see the writing at the bottom left that says "Art is a rat"? Do you see that in the photo?
I do.
Okay. Did you ever see that in person? That "Art is a rat" written on the code pad there?
No, not in person, sir.
Okay. Were you aware that anyone did this that wrote "Art is a rat" on this code pad or keypad, I should say?
I saw it on the Witness LA article.
Okay. All right.
On the what? I'm sorry, the article?
From Witness LA.
What other news media sources or newspapers have you read about the coverage at Compton Station involving deputy clicks?
Objection, vague and ambiguous. Answer the question if you can understand it, sir.
I've seen it, KTLA, Witness LA. I lost track, sir.
Okay. And the dead rat we looked at earlier, I'm not sure I asked you, do you know who put that at Thomas Benuelos's house?
Objection assumes facts not in evidence. You can answer, Deputy Juarez, if you understand the question.
No, I don't.
Okay. One sec. Give me a moment to deal with some exhibits. All right. Let's see. Oh, that's not the right one. Okay, we're looking at Exhibit 5. I'm going to present it. Deputy Juarez, have you ever seen this photo before?
Yes.
Okay. Where have you seen this photo?
I was actually there. It was the barbecue.
Okay. Whose house was the barbecue at?
Let me see. You try to make it bigger. I'm not sure by telling. I can't tell, sir, by the picture.
Okay. Do you recall when the photo was taken, more or less?
No. There's a they do barbecues every now and then, so I'm sure there's a lot of pictures going around. I don't know exactly where that was.
Okay. Are these all sheriff's deputies in the photo?
Yes.
Okay. Can you please identify them for me, starting with the first row, left to right? Let's do the first row, and then take a pause, and we'll do the back row. So go ahead.
We're doing the closest to me.
We're going to do first row from the left, meaning the gentleman in the the light blue colored shirt, and we're going to go to the right, all the way to the gentleman in the dark blue colored shirt. So that's 6 individuals. If you could please identify them for me by name.
Okay. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. So Mizrain Orrego, Omar Cabarrubias, David Navarrete, Sonny. That's S. Yes. Sorry.
You have to go a little slower. I apologize. I didn't tell you this. Let's go a little slower. Let's get the spellings because the court reporter has to get all these names, and he or she's not going to get them all. So let's start with the first gentleman. If you could spell the name. So I'm sorry, you said Mizrain.
Okay. Yes. So Mizrain Orrego. The first name Mizrain Orrego. ORREGO.
Thank you. And to his right?
That's Omar, OMAR Cabarrubias. That's CO, B as in Victor, ARRU, B as in boy, IAS.
Okay, to his right?
David, common spelling, Navarrete. That's N-A, V as in Victor, A-R-R-E-T-T-E, I believe.
Okay. And to his right in the red tank top?
That's Sonny, S-O-N-N-Y, Solomua, S-O-L-O-M-U-A.
Okay. And to his right?
That's Nestor, N-E-S-T-O-R, Sandoval, S-A-N, V as in Victor, or actually S-A-N-D-O-V-A-L.
Okay. And to his right, the gentleman in the dark blue shirt?
That is Stephen, S-T-E-P-H-E-N, I believe. Vasquez, common spelling.
Okay. And let's move to the row of standing up gentlemen. So far left, it's like a white or cream shirt. Standing up, who's that gentleman?
That's Kyle, K-Y-L-E, Gillespie. That's G-I-L-L-E-S-P-I-E.
Okay. And to his right in the white t-shirt?
Samuel, common spelling. Aldama, A-L-D-A-M-A.
Okay. To his right in the burgundy t-shirt?
Jesus, common spelling. Sandoval.
Okay. And to his right in the black t-shirt?
Edgar, common spelling. Cuevas, C-U-E-V as in Victor, A-S.
Okay. And to his right in a kind of bluish shirt with a black ball cap?
That's Daniel, common spelling. Reese, common spelling.
Ruiz, R-U-I-Z?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And to his right in the black t-shirt and black cap?
That'll be myself.
Okay. And to your right with the burgundy t-shirt and the black cap?
That is Jose, common spelling. Sandoval, Mendoza. So two last names, Sandoval and then Mendoza.
Is there a hyphen in between them or just?
I believe so, sir.
Okay. So to his right, it's a gentleman with a ball cap, looks like a black shirt or black jacket.
That is Ruben, common spelling. Jimenez, common spelling.
Okay. And to his right, gentleman in a striped tank top.
James, common spelling. Cross, that's K-R-A-S-E.
Okay. And to his right, red t-shirt.
Oh, I believe that's kind of blurry, but I believe that's Avalos. I don't know his first name. Brian, common spelling. Last name Avalos. A-B as in Victor. A-L-O-S.
Okay. And to his right, holding a beer.
That's Edwin, common spelling. Barajas. That's B as in boy. A-R-A-J-A-S.
Okay. And to his right in a black shirt.
That's Eric, common spelling. Sandoval.
Okay. And to his right in the checkered shirt.
Last individual is Charlie, C-H-A-R-L-I-E, Garzon. That's G-A-R-Z-O-N.
Now, tell me, were all these deputies assigned to Compton Station at the same time?
No.
Okay. Were all these deputies assigned to Compton Station at some time?
Yes.
Okay. Isn't it true that this photo is a representation of a meeting of a deputy clique?
No, sir, it was a family barbecue.
Whose family?
Everybody's.
So everyone brought their families to that barbecue?
For the most part, yes, sir.
Okay. Hasn't Samuel Aldama already testified and admitted that he has the executioner's tattoo?
Objection. Question is not likely to lead to the discovery of admissible evidence and instruct the witness not to answer.
That's number 12. Are you going to take your attorney's advice?
I am, sir.
How many of those deputies have the executioner's tattoo in that photo?
Objection. Calls for speculation, assumes facts not in evidence, and is not reasonably calculated to lead to admissible evidence. Instruct the witness not to answer.
That's 13. Are you taking your attorney's advice?
I am.
Okay. And for the court reporter, just logistically, if you could mark all the questions, I should have told you earlier. I'm sorry. From now on, I'll say mark it. I apologize, but I will need an appendix of all these questions. Okay. Let's look at one more photo. All right. Have you ever seen this photo before, Deputy Juarez?
I have.
Okay. Is this a photo that you posted on your social media?
I don't have social media, sir.
Okay. Did you ever have an Instagram account?
No.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Can you identify the gentleman in this photo, starting with the far left, and we'll move to the right? So far left is a gentleman in a navy blue suit and tie. Who is that?
Okay, so first one is Samuel Adama.
Okay, and next to him in the gray suit with the black shirt?
It's going to be Edgar Cuevas.
Okay, next to him?
Eric Sandoval.
Okay, next to him in the black long sleeve shirt?
That's Jose Sandoval Mendoza.
Okay, next to him and with the glasses?
I don't believe they're glasses, but I believe it's Nestor Sandoval.
Okay.
Or it is Nestor Sandoval.
Okay. Next to him in the white t-shirt or white shirt?
That's Devon Self. That's Devon Self SELF.
Okay. Next to him in the suspenders and tie?
Steven Vasquez.
Okay. Next to him in the gray with the white tie, gray suit, white tie?
Miguel Vega. That's V as in Victor, EJA, or GA. Sorry.
Okay. Now, above him, a gentleman with a gray suit and a dark blue tie?
That's Brian Avalos.
Okay. And is that you next to him in like a light blue long sleeve shirt?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And next to you with a purple, dark blue tie and a gray suit?
That's Jonathan Harris.
Can you spell Jonathan? Jonathan?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And Harris, Harris?
Yes.
Okay. Next to him, gentleman in a multicolored tie and a white shirt, navy suit?
That's Edwin Barajas.
Okay. Next to him, gentleman in navy suit, white dress shirt, no tie.
So that's Christopher Hernandez, both common spelling.
Okay. How many of these deputies were assigned at any time to Compton Station?
They all worked Compton Station at some point.
Okay. How many of the members in this photo, how many of the deputies in this photo have the executioner's tattoo?
Objection assumes facts not in evidence, calls for speculation, not reasonably calculated to lead to admissible evidence, instruct the witness not to answer.
Please mark refusal number 14. Deputy Juarez, are you going to take your attorney's advice to not answer?
I am.
Okay. Do you know what B2V what does B2V mean in the photo? If you know.
Baker to Vegas, sir.
Sorry. Please repeat that.
Baker, Baker, B as in boy, AKER, 2. They use the 2, but it's PO and Vegas. It's a annual run that they put on.
Okay. How many times did you participate in the Baker to Vegas run in your career?
12 times, sir. Or actually, no, because they didn't have it the last 2 years, so about approximately 10 times, sir.
Okay. And how many times did you participate at a Compton Station?
10 times.
Okay. Does that mean you were at Compton Station for 10 years? At least?
I was there for at least, sir, 12 years.
Okay. And the CPT next to that, the hashtag, does that refer to Compton Station?
It does.
Is CPT a common abbreviation used for Compton Station within the department?
It is.
Okay. Do you recall when this photo was taken? I'll take it down.
So they canceled Baker to Vegas 2019. So I believe it was Baker to Vegas 2018, sir. It might have been 2017, though.
And in 2018, what time of year would this have taken place?
Baker to Vegas is usually March or April.
Okay. And were you in charge of the Baker to Vegas team while you were assigned to Compton Station at any time?
I was.
Which years or for how long?
I believe it was. I think I was. We have a committee, so it's not just me in charge of it. It's several people. I want to say I helped out that year, which was 2018, and I was helping out for the 2019 year, but it was canceled due to COVID.
Who else was on the committee for Baker to Vegas in the year 2018?
So it was David Navarrete, Art Garcia, Eric Sandoval, Sonny Salamua, I believe Nicholas Schaefer, Nicholas common spelling Schaefer, Schapher, and I might be forgetting one. I don't recall the exact name, sir.
How about for 2019? Same folks?
Yes, with the exception of David Navarrete. I don't believe David Navarrete was helping for that 2019 year.
Okay. Do you know where was that photo taken?
That photo was taken at at a club in Vegas.
Okay. All right. So tell me, how long have you been employed by the Sheriff's Department?
Since 2005, sir.
Okay. And what year were you born?
1982.
Okay. So you joined when you were about 22 or 23 years old?
Yes.
Okay. What did you do for a living prior to joining the Sheriff's Department?
I did 5 years in the Marine Corps, sir.
Okay. What was your MOS?
It was 0121, which is mostly administration.
Okay. Did you have any other employment between your discharge from the Marine Corps and being hired by the Sheriff's Department?
No.
Okay. Did you graduate high school?
I did.
Where did you graduate from high school?
I believe it was from Carson High. Carson High.
Do you remember the year?
2000, sir.
Did you attend any colleges or universities, even part-time?
Cerritos College for about 6 classes, sir.
Okay. Do you have any other certifications or trade certificates or anything of that nature issued by an educational institution?
No, I don't.
Okay. Do you recall the month or the date that you reported to the Sheriff's Academy?
I believe it was either June or July of 2005.
Okay. And can you refresh my recollection how long the Sheriff's Academy was back then when you attended?
4 months.
Okay. All right. You know, let's take a break at 11. I need to confer with my client for 5-10 minutes tops, but we'll keep going here. So I'd like to take a break in 5 minutes just to let everyone know. What was your first assignment after graduating from the Sheriff's Academy?
Men's Central Jail.
I'm sorry?
Men's Central Jail, MCJ. Sorry, I got stuffy nose. Men's Central Jail.
And how long were you assigned? Let me rephrase that. What was your job title at Men's Central Jail when you were first assigned?
Uh, I was, I don't know what the assignments are. I was just a regular jail deputy.
Like a custody deputy or something like that? What'd you do there? What'd you do there when you first got there?
Supervise inmates.
Okay. What floor or what unit were you assigned to?
3,000.
How many deputies that you worked with at the 3,000 floor ended up working with you at Compton Station later?
I wouldn't know, sir. I was at Compton Station for 12 years, so people come and go.
More than 10?
Yes.
More than 20?
I would, if I had to estimate, I'm guessing maybe between 20 and 30 through the 12 years I was there.
Okay. Is it true that 3,000 floor tends to send a lot of deputies to Compton Station?
A lot of the deputies from 3,000, not a lot. I would say maybe, I don't know, 30% maybe go to Compton Station. There's a lot of other deputies go other places as well.
Okay. But is Compton the #1 destination, at least the last decade, for deputies going to patrol from the 3,000 floor?
I don't know, sir. I don't know where all the other deputies went, so I would be guessing if I said yes.
Did you know anyone that worked on the 2,000 floor while you were at MCJ?
Yes.
Okay. Did any of those deputies end up at Compton Station? From 2,000?
Yes.
How many would you estimate over your career at Compton?
Maybe around between 5 and 10, maybe.
Okay. Is it true that 2,000 floor deputies generally go to South LA stations in general, or not true?
I wouldn't know, sir.
Okay. How long were you assigned to MCJ?
Little less than 3 years.
Okay. And then after MCJ, let's see, what year did you report to MCJ, more or less?
The end of 2005.
Okay. So about 2008 or so, where were you transferred to?
Compton Station.
Were you a patrol trainee at that time?
Yes, sir.
How many FTOs did you have when you were first assigned to Compton Station as a trainee?
I believe 5.
Do you remember who those FTOs were? And if you could spell the names for the court reporter, please.
Yes. So my first TO was Ann Devane. That's ANN Devane, DEV as in Victor, ANE.
Mm-hmm.
After her, it was Ignacio, IGNACIO, Garcia, common spelling. After him, it was Michael, common spelling, Curini, that's QURINIJ. After him, it was Deputy or Fernando Gonzalez, both common spelling. And my last TO was Javier, common spelling, Cruz, common spelling.
Do you know if any of those deputies had a gladiator, those FTOs had a gladiator tattoo?
Objection, not reasonably calculated to lead to admissible evidence. Instruct the witness not to answer.
So that's refusal number 15. I'd ask the court reporter to please mark the question. Are you going to take your attorney's advice to not answer that question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are there a number of deputies at Compton Station? Let me rephrase that. Isn't it true that you told your internal affairs that there's a deputy clique at Compton Station that has strike that? Did you ever talk to IA about the Gonzalez claims?
I had an interview regarding station tattoos.
When was that?
It was either early this year or late last year, sir.
Who interviewed you?
Sergeant Puebla. I believe it's Pablo Puebla.
And it's Pablo Puebla.
I believe so.
That's where my mother's from, so I know the spelling. How long did the interview last?
I'm going to object, instruct the witness not to answer. We can meet and confer with regards to IA issues, but again, I don't believe that inquiry is reasonably calculated to lead to admissible evidence.
Okay, so what your attorney is saying, and I'm going to make a record, is that you were interviewed about this case, yet somehow that's not relevant to this case. So that's number 16. It asks the court reporter to mark the question. Are you going to not refuse to answer how long you talked to Sergeant Puebla?
So you've misstated his testimony about what he was interviewed about and whether it's connected to this case. I repeat my instruction that the witness should not answer.
Okay, that's 17. We'll leave it at 16. We'll be fair. Did Sergeant Puebla ask you any questions about Deputy Gonzalez?
Again,
Art Gonzalez.
So just so we're clear, counsel, I'm not going to allow the witness to testify about the contents of his IA interview. So if you'd like to move on to a new subject, that's great. If you'd like to continue to ask questions, I'm going to continue with the instructions not to answer.
So like I said earlier, I'm going to ignore her for the most part. So number 17 that's a refusal to answer. Number 17. Once again, I'll ask a different way. I'm not asking you for the contents of the IA investigation. I'm asking you, did Sergeant Pablo Puebla from LASD IA ask you any questions about the plaintiff, Ostroberto Gonzalez? Yes or no?
Objection. Again, I'm not going to allow him to testify about the contents of his IA interview. We can meet and confer on this issue off record. And if we can reach agreement on scope and permissibility and confidentiality, that's one thing. But right now, I'm going to instruct the witness not to answer.
So that's refusal to answer. Number 18, it asks the court reporter to mark it. I'm sorry, in a nutshell, what basis do you have that there's any confidentiality from him preventing him or privilege preventing him from telling me whether or not he talked to Sergeant Puebla about Art's case? Because I know he did. I talked to Puebla. So what's the privilege? What's the basis for instructing him not to answer?
The contents of the IA investigation is not relevant or material to your client's claims in this case. Like I said, if you can give me a proffer as to why that is a relevant line of inquiry, we can meet and confer, and we can address it offline. I thought that you were going to be conducting this deposition about your plaintiff. I have yet to hear a single question about him.
Well,
That's not your purpose today. I don't know. Either way, I'm going to instruct the witness not to talk about the contents of his communications with IA.
So just for the record, so the judge sees this, I know for a fact that Art Gonzalez was discussed in that IA. So this is an objection made in bad faith, and no one here believes what you're saying, including you. So we'll move on to the next.
So you have now said extremely disparaging and unprofessional statements about me. And it violates your rules of professional conduct generally, as well as the Stanley Mosque rules governing the conduct of counsel during proceedings.
You know what?
I am a professional.
One at a time.
I'm here to represent my client. I've exercised a lot of patience, but I will tell you, counsel, that your behavior is inappropriate and it is disrespectful and it's subject to sanctions. Also, you're trying to intrude upon matters that require for you to seek appropriate permission from the court, including pitches motions, which you have never filed, not less even met and conferred on. And so you're not going to use this deposition as an end run around your obligations to comply with pitches.
So you've gone on a rant, a unhinged rant, and you've done it over and over again to obstruct and to prevent me from getting testimony here. This is not your deposition. This is not your opportunity to spout lies about what's going on in this case. You've refused to answer, instructed your client to refuse 18 to answer 18 questions, specifically questions that I know for a fact there's an IA investigation about your client here being involved in a racist deputy gang that made violent threats against the plaintiff here. I know that for a fact because I've spoken to the IA detective, and you're preventing me from getting answers. So basically anything you're saying here is absurd. Your accusations are absurd. Your behavior is absurd. So I'd ask you to stop making speeches and let me do my depo. Will you agree to stop obstructing? And I've had problems with your firm before. Last time we had multiple attorneys. We had Max Hirsch, MAXHIRSCH, who wasn't the attorney taking the depo, who was obstructing my depo. You're doing it again. I'd ask your firm, you say you're professionals. I would represent you guys are the least professional firm I've dealt with perhaps in 15 years. You guys interrupt. You don't let me ask questions. You don't give me discovery. You give me nothing. Your representation that you've been professional is probably the most absurd representation I've heard from counsel in years. So I'd ask you to please stop and let me ask questions. Will you please stop making speeches on the record and let me ask questions, please?
I'm going to continue to conduct this deposition as a professional. I advise you to actually look at your outline, find some relevant questions, and move on.
Well, on that note, take a break at 11.
Hold on.
I said we take a break at 11. It's 11:05. Let's take 10, and we'll come back at 11:15. Thank you.
Agree, counsel?
Yes, we can go off record.
Okay. We are now off the record. The time is 11:06 a.m. Pacific. We are now back on the record. The time is 11:18 a.m. Pacific time.
Okay, so we're back on the record, and it's my turn to read something. So I'd like to read something into the record that was handed to me by my associate, and I agree. Offer of proof as to why the executioner's tattoo questions are relevant. This is a cat's paws case. The executioners are alleged to have controlled Compton Station at all times relevant to this litigation, and improperly influenced the command staff and command decisions at Compton Station. The identities of the executioners, the existence of tattoos on the bodies of deputies who had been assigned to Compton Station, the iconography of such tattoos, and the activities of the executioners are all directly relevant to causation and have been properly pled in the action. All right, let's continue. So, Deputy Juarez, we had talked about you being assigned in 2008 as a trainee to Compton Station. You had told us that you had 5 FTOs and you identified them. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you make it through all 6 phases of patrol training without difficulty that you recall?
I did.
Okay. Had any deputy recommended you or otherwise vouched for you prior to your having attended patrol training at Compton Station? Does that make sense?
No, sir.
Okay. Who did you, let me rephrase that. Had anyone recommended to you to go to Compton Station for your patrol training?
No.
Okay. Did you know any of your FTOs prior to your arrival at Compton Station? Had you met them before?
No. No.
Okay. How long were you a patrol trainee for at Compton Station?
Approximately 6 months, sir.
Okay. After that, what shift were you assigned to when you were cleared patrol training?
Early mornings.
Okay. And at Compton, or I guess in the Sheriff's Department, what hours are the EM or early morning shift?
All stations are different, but at Compton, it's 9 p.m. To 7 a.m.
And how long were you assigned to early morning at Compton?
A year and a half, 2 years maybe. I don't know the exact date, sir.
What was your next assignment?
So from early mornings, I went to, they call it a PM overlap, which is it's almost the same thing as early morning. They just start 2 hours before the early morning shift. So I will start at 7 p.m. and get off at 5 a.m.
And how long did you work the PM overlap at Compton?
2 years, maybe about 2 years.
After the PM overlap, what was your next assignment?
So after that, I went to, I believe, to just a regular PM shift, which I don't recall if it started. They have 2 PM shifts on at Compton. They either start at 1 PM or 3 PM. I don't remember if it was 1 PM or 3 PM where I went to.
After early mornings, PM overlapped, PM shift, where'd you work next?
You know what? I think I actually went back to early mornings for a year. So I did early mornings, PM overlap, then early mornings. Then I went back, or I went to a PM shift. Yes.
Okay. At what point were you given the scheduling deputy position at Compton Station?
2015.
Is that a coveted position?
No.
Okay. How did you get that position?
I was asked by Sergeant Mark Lopez.
What did Sergeant Lopez ask you?
If I want to be the scheduling deputy.
Okay.
I'm not in those words. I don't remember the exact word he used.
And did you immediately accept?
Yes.
Okay. Is the scheduling deputy position at Compton Station, is that a sought after position?
No, not at all.
Okay. Isn't it true the scheduling deputy position controls the schedule for every patrol deputy at the station?
I wouldn't say they control it, but they do generate the in-services.
Okay. And for the record, what is an in-service at the Sheriff's Department?
So it's the schedules, like whatever deputies are assigned to work that shift or that day.
So if I looked at an in-service for any given day, those are the deputies that are on the street at that time doing patrol stuff?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how about deputies that are IOD or have been suspended? Do they appear on the in-service?
Yes. Sometimes if they know they're going to be extended leave, they'll take them off. But if it's only for like a week or two, they'll be on the in-service still.
Are they in a different box than those deputies that are actually working?
Yeah, there's a section for vacancies. So it would know if a deputy's on vacation or if they're on RDOs, which is the regular days off, or either IOD or at training or FMLA or something like that.
How often would you assign deputies to no-call cars?
That all depends. That's the needs of the station. If the captain wanted me to create a no-call car, then we would do it.
Which captains asked you to create no-call cars?
Objection. Do you mean during his entire tenure at scheduling deputy, or do you have a specific time frame in mind?
In the history of the world.
So that's a pretty broad question, Deputy Juarez. Do your best to answer.
Okay, so at some point, every captain I worked for wanted a no-call car. So I would start from the beginning. Or the time I was there. So it was Captain Thatcher, Lieutenant Waldy, and who else did I work for?
Did you work for?
I think those were the. I'm sorry, for who?
Did you work for Captain Clark?
Not as the scheduling deputy. No, I did not.
What did Thatcher ask you to create no-call cars for? I just don't understand what a no-call car would be used for. So what did Thatcher request no-call cars for?
So one of the biggest reasons they request no-call cars is that if there's a lot of shootings in an area, they would want a car there, a no-call car like that. They stay in the area like that. They don't have to respond to another call and leave the area where all the shootings are happening. Okay. They also do it for 4th of July, New Year's.
Is that the same answer for acting Captain Waldy? That he asked you for no-call cars for the same reasons?
Yeah, it's mostly the same reasons. It's because crime is up in a certain area, or yeah, that's pretty much it.
Did you ever assign a no-call car to Deputy Reza, REZA, on a weekend so that he could go play softball while on the clock?
No, I would never do that.
Okay. Do you know Deputy Reza?
I do.
How many of the photos we looked at earlier was Deputy Reza in?
I would have to see him again, but I don't think it was in any of them. Okay. Maybe I would have to see the pictures again, sir.
Well, let's do that. This is Exhibit 5. It's Deputy Reza in Exhibit 5. Which,
no.
Just for the record, this has like an American flag painted cornhole game piece. Okay, so no Deputy Reza here. Let's look at Exhibit 6. Exhibit 6 is a shot at a nightclub. This is B2V. Is Deputy Reza in this one?
No, he's not.
Okay. All right. Did you ever give preferential treatment as scheduling deputy to other deputies that had the same tattoo as you have?
Objection, argumentative, assumes facts not in evidence. I'm really trying to exercise patience with you, counsel, but you have yet to ask a single question about your client's interactions with the witness, and instruct you not to answer that question, Deputy Juarez.
So that's refusal number 19. I'm going to ask the court reporter to mark that. We're approaching a firm record. Actually, we blew by that hours ago. Are you going to take your client's, are you going to take your attorney's advice not to answer that question, Deputy Juarez?
I am.
Okay. How many on-duty shootings have you been involved in?
Objection, not reasonably calculated to lead to admissible evidence. You're also seeking to intrude upon the witness's privacy. I instruct him not to answer.
I would represent that if you shoot at someone or shoot them, you don't have any privacy in public. That's refusal number 20. I'd ask the court reporter to mark it. Are you going to take your attorney's advice, Deputy Juarez?
I am.
Isn't it true that you had your gun taken away by the Sheriff's Department Shooting Analysis Committee?
Objection, not reasonably calculated to lead to admissible evidence. You're also harassing and seeking to intimidate my witness. I'm going to instruct him not to answer. And counsel, I'd advise you to please mind the rules of professional conduct and seek to conduct this deposition on matters actually relevant to your client's employment claims centered on 2020.
So none of what she said makes any sense to me. It's refusal to answer. I lost track. Are we 21 or 22? No, we 21. We're at 21. I'd ask the court reporter to mark that. Okay. Is it true that during a period of time that you were assigned to Compton, you could not carry a gun on duty?
Same instruction.
Okay, it's refusal number 22. I will instruct the court reporter to mark it. Well, he walked around the station without a gun. How is that private, counsel?
That doesn't have anything to do with your client.
Because
this case is about whether or not he was retaliated against when he got his transfer to PICO that he requested, and that was only delayed due to his on-duty misconduct that was the subject of a pending administrative investigation.
So
it has nothing to do with any of these issues, and you're seeking to harass and intimidate my witness. I again advise you to please use this time wisely for matters actually relevant to this case.
So again, none of that makes any sense. Okay. Isn't it true that the department determined that you were too dangerous to carry a weapon on duty?
Objection. Instruct the witness not to answer on the same grounds repeated previously.
That's refusal number 23. Deputy Juarez, are you refusing to answer the question on your attorney's advice?
I'm going to take my attorney's advice and not answer the question, yes.
Have you seen other deputies lose their ability to carry a weapon on duty at Compton Station?
Objection. Again, what does it have to do with your client's employment case? I'm going to instruct the witness not to answer. This is not reasonably calculated to lead to admissible evidence.
That's refusal number 24. I will ask the court reporter to mark that. Are you going to take your attorney's advice not to answer that question, Deputy Juarez?
I am.
Okay. All right. And just so you know, Deputy Juarez, a fair warning, the only basis to not respond to a question is attorney-client privilege or a case called Rifkind, where I ask you contention questions, RIFKIND. None of those apply, so your refusal to answer may result in sanctions by the court. So that's just fair warning. I know you're not going to answer, but I want to make sure that's in the record. Okay.
Thank you.
Did Deputy Brian Avalos lose his gun while he was assigned to Compton Station?
Objection. Now he's asking you about other personal information regarding third parties. I instruct you not to answer.
That's 25. We beat my over-under. I said 25, but we're probably going to get to 50. That's refusal number 25. Wow. Okay. I'm going to ask the court reporter to, I didn't think we'd get to that early in the morning. Court reporter, please mark refusal number 25. Were you responsible for handling the schedule of Brian Avalos while you were scheduling, Deputy?
Yeah, at some point, I'm sure I was.
Okay. And Brian Avalos was in one or two of those pictures we looked at, right?
Yes.
Do you know if Brian Avalos had a court order entered against him, a public court order entered against him, restricting his ability to carry a weapon on duty? I'm asking about a court record. Do you know if that court record existed?
Objection. Seeking matters not relevant or admissible or likely to lead to admissible evidence. Seeking to intimidate the witness again, I'm going to instruct you not to answer.
Refusal number 26, I'd ask the court reporter to mark that. Deputy Juarez, are you going to take your attorney's advice not to answer?
I am.
Deputy Juarez, your attorneys represent that you feel harassed. Do you feel harassed right now?
A little bit, sir. Yes.
Okay. Do you feel scared?
No.
Okay. How do you feel harassed? How are you being harassed? Tell me about that, since that's becoming an issue. It's come up 26 times. How is me asking you questions harassing you? How does that make you feel harassed?
Well, I'm here to answer questions regarding Mr. Altuberto's case, not about other things, sir.
Okay. Well, isn't it true that there was a position that the plaintiff, Roberto Gonzalez, was qualified for that you gave to Brian Avalos instead?
I believe your dates are incorrect, sir. I don't think I was the scheduling deputy at that point.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Let me pull my notes. Okay. Do you remember, were you the scheduling deputy when Deputy Brian Avalos, which I think you misspelled it, I think it's Avalos, but we'll figure it out later. Were you scheduling deputy when he was promoted to watch deputy?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. Do you know who the scheduling deputy was?
Yeah, it was Wanda, W-A-N-D-A, Valiente, V as in Victor, A-L-I-E-N-D, Valiente. So V-A-L-I-E-N-T-E, I believe.
Okay. All right. Where were you assigned at this time?
Patrol.
Okay. Is this after you got your gun back?
Objection. Again, you're trying to intimidate and harass this witness. There's been no testimony or evidence about his gun. You're apparently trying to testify, which is an inappropriate use of this deposition or my witness's time. Instruct you not to answer that question, sir.
Ask the court reporter to mark. It's refusal number 27. Are you going to refuse to answer questions about you having lost your gun?
I'm going to follow my attorney's advice and not answer the question.
All right. Is it true that Under Sheriff Murakami personally intervened to get you your gun back?
Objection. This is not about Deputy Juarez. This is supposed to be about your client. And, you know, your hand gestures are extremely condescending and unprofessional. I hope the record will reflect that you just made a gesture as if what I have to say on the record is not important. I'm licensed to practice law the same way you are, and I'm entitled to make a record from my client. I'm going to instruct you not to answer that. I'm not even sure it was a question, Deputy Juarez, but again, don't respond until you get a legitimate question reasonably calculated to lead to admissible evidence.
That's refusal number 28. I'd ask the court reporter to please mark that. Are you going to take your attorney's advice and not answer that question, Deputy Juarez?
I am.
Did you ever talk to Commander Thatcher about trying to get your gun back?
Objection. Again, this entire line of inquiry has nothing to do with your client or his case. I'm going to instruct the witness not to answer.
That's refusal number 28. I'd ask the court reporter to mark that. Are you going to take your attorney's advice to not answer that question?
I am.
Okay. Did you have a sexual relationship with Deputy Ileana Vargas?
Objection. Not reasonably calculated to lead to admissible evidence. Instruct the witness not to answer.
And that is spelled Illiana, Vargas, Vargas. That's refusal number 29. I'd ask the court reporter to mark it. Deputy Juarez, are you going to refuse to answer that question?
I am going to follow my attorney's advice and not answer it.
Okay. Isn't it true that the plaintiff filed a policy of equity complaint against Ileana Vargas?
The plaintiff, you mean Obstructing Gonzalez? Is that your question, sir?
Deputy Juarez, go ahead and answer.
So that was unclear to me, Deputy Juarez, but if you understand it, go ahead and answer the question.
Can you rephrase it for me, sir?
Okay. Can we have the court reporter read it back, please?
One moment. Question. The plaintiff, Osterberto Gonzalez, is that, excuse me, I apologize. Question. Isn't it true that the plaintiff filed a policy of equity complaint against Ileana Vargas?
I don't know, sir. That was the rumor. I don't know. I don't deal with POE, so I don't know.
Didn't you have a meeting with other deputies when you heard that the plaintiff had filed a POE complaint against Deputy Vargas, where you told other deputies that you were going to fuck over the plaintiff in this case?
Objection compound assumes facts not in evidence. Do your best to answer the question, sir, if you understand it.
No, I did not.
Did you ever have a meeting with other deputies about the plaintiff?
No, never.
Okay. Did the plaintiff ever come to you when you were scheduling deputy and ask you for time off to take care of his daughter?
Not in 2020. Maybe 2016, maybe 2017, but not in 2020.
Okay. What did he ask you in that year?
I don't remember the exact conversation, but he requested a day off, or he requested multiple days off.
And did you give him those days off?
What I could, I did. If we were too short and I couldn't give him the day off, then I would have him talk to the sergeant.
Did you ever give days off to deputies so that they could attend social functions together?
I never asked for reasons. If somebody put in a request, I would check the calendar. If I can give them the day off, I would give it to them. If not, I would refer them to the sergeant.
But that's not true, is it? Because isn't it true that in order to facilitate social meetings between deputies, you would have to pull deputies off other shifts to cover early morning so that the deputies could go have parties? Isn't that true?
Objection, argumentative. Do your best to answer the question if you understand it, sir.
The only time we ever move or adjust the deputy schedule to cover the field for any function will be for Baker to Vegas. Since most of the stations either running or supporting, then they would switch. The sergeant would move people's schedule around. Yes, that's the only time.
Have you ever attended a shooting debriefing meeting with other deputies outside of county premises?
Can you be more specific, sir? I don't even know what that is.
You don't know what is?
A shooting debriefing.
Okay. Have you ever celebrated a shooting by a deputy?
Celebrated? Never.
Okay. Have you ever had a social meeting where you discussed a deputy having shot a member of the public?
Yes.
How many times?
Top of my head, maybe 3-4 times.
Okay. Let's start with the first one you remember. When and where was that?
Objection, not reasonably calculated to lead to admissible evidence. Instruct the witness not to answer.
That's refusal number 30. I'd ask the court reporter to mark it. When's the second such social meeting that you recall?
Objection. Instruct the witness not to answer. This line of inquiry has nothing to do with Mr. Gonzalez or his employment claims. It's calculated to harass and intimidate my witness. I'm going to continue to instruct not to answer if you continue down this line, and you're also misstating the record in the process.
All right. It's refusal to answer number 31. I'm going to ask court reporter to mark that. I'd ask Deputy Juarez, there's 2 questions that were pending. Are you going to take your attorney's advice, not answer both of them?
I am, sir.
Your attorney says you're being intimidated. Do you feel intimidated right now?
I a little bit, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's not the purpose. I'm sorry for intimidating you, and I'm sorry for harassing you, if that's how you feel. That's not my intention. But well, as you're aware, you're a deputy. How many times have you testified in court, deputy?
20 plus, sir.
Okay. How many times were you cross-examined by a defense attorney?
Probably every single time.
Okay. Did you feel harassed and intimidated every single time you were cross-examined by a defense attorney in those cases?
No.
Okay. So this situation is you find particularly harassing and intimidating. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry you feel that way. All right. Give me one moment. Let me pull up one more exhibit. Okay. When did you first meet Lieutenant Larry Waldy?
Objection. You're trying to use this deposition to pursue inquiries that are not even relevant to the client whose matter this is. You represent Lieutenant Waldy in a separate case. I'm not going to allow you to ask Deputy Juarez questions about matters that are related to your other litigation. If you want to pursue his discovery in those cases in which I do not represent the county, you'll have to pursue them in those cases in connection with the lawyers that are involved. We are here today for Ostroberto Gonzalez's case. You have yet to even ask questions about that case.
Stop.
Hold on. One at a time, please.
Stop.
Please don't interrupt me. I'm not done.
Stop. I'm going to keep saying it until you keep interrupting me. Stop. You're making this impossible. We're at 31st refusal. You will not stop talking. This is insane. This is the most insane experience I've ever had as an attorney. Stop talking. I'm trying to get your Juarez's deposition. You don't stop talking. Don't stop refusing. I have had the patience of Solomon. Stop interfering. Stop it. This is lunacy, what you're doing. It's lunacy. That's the 31st refusal to answer instruction, Deputy Juarez. Okay? Again, Ms. Hashmall, just stop. Stop what you're doing. Stop it. Deputy Juarez, it's your 31st instruction not to answer. Are you going to take your attorney's instructions and not answer the question about how you know your acting captain at Compton Station, Larry Waldy? Are you taking that advice?
I'm going to take my attorney's advice, yes, and not answer.
Was Larry Waldy the acting captain at your station when you were assigned there?
You may answer that, sir.
Yeah. Yes.
How long was he your acting captain?
Ooh, close to 2 years, I believe.
When did you first meet your acting captain, Larry Waldy?
I actually met Larry Waldy for the first time. I met him at a Baker to Vegas. I met him there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's what I was trying to ask. What was your relationship to him at that time? Was he also working in Compton, or was he working somewhere else?
He was not at Compton Station at the time, no.
Okay. How long after did Lieutenant strike that? Do you know if Lieutenant Waldy previously worked at Compton Station previous to you meeting him?
Yes, he worked there as a patrol deputy.
Do you know what years he was assigned as patrol deputy to Compton Station?
No, I don't.
Okay. You just know it was prior to him being your acting captain?
Correct.
Okay. When's the first time you met Larry Waldy again after he had been assigned as your acting captain?
I don't know exactly what year he got to Baker to Vegas. To Compton Station, but he came back as a lieutenant.
Do you recall what year that was?
No, I don't.
Okay. Did you ever threaten Lieutenant Waldy when he was acting captain with a work slowdown at Compton Station?
No, I did not.
Okay. Did you ever have any discussions with your acting captain Waldy about arrest statistics being low at Compton Station?
Objection. Again, you're seeking to conduct a deposition involving your other client in this proceeding. I'm going to instruct the witness not to answer.
That's refusal to answer number 32. Madam Court Reporter, please mark the question. Are you taking your attorney's advice not to answer the question?
I am.
Well, at least you've admitted you know him, so that's a step in the right direction.
Objection. Argumentative and inappropriate.
Well, that wasn't a question, it was a statement, so.
It's still argumentative and inappropriate.
Well, that describes everything that's come out of your mouth today, so we'll have to call it even.
I object to your lack of professionalism, counsel, and I do look forward to putting this transcript in front of the court.
With your 32 refusals to answer, you can bet on that 100%. Did you ever have any discussions with Commander Thatcher about Lieutenant Larry Waldy?
Objection. Are you going to conduct the deposition for your client, Mr. Gonzalez?
Stop.
Or is this about your other client,
Stop.
Mr. Waldy? Because
Stop.
I'm going to adjourn this deposition if you're not going to actually conduct reasonable. No, you're not going to cut me off. I'm not. This deposition is here for Ostroberto Gonzalez.
Stop.
This is not a deposition.
Hold on. I need you to speak one at a time.
Please stop interrupting me, counsel.
Stop talking.
I'm making a record. If you are not going to confine this deposition to this lawsuit, I'm going to adjourn it.
Stop talking. Stop talking. Stop talking. Stop talking. If that's what it takes for me to say, stop talking 10 times in a row for you to stop interrupting my deposition, I will do it all day. And frankly, I'm embarrassed for you. This is, again, this disgusting behavior, and everyone sitting here can't believe that you're having to make me tell you to stop talking 100 times, and it still hasn't worked yet.
That's it. I'm adjourning. We're going to go off the record. Madam Court Reporter, I'd like to order an expedited transcript of these proceedings. I have given you many, many opportunities to actually conduct legitimate discovery in this case. You're not only being rude and condescending, you're now wasting my client's precious time when he could be serving the constituents of the county. And you are not even pursuing levels of inquiry related to your client or his case. I've given you many opportunities to conduct this deposition properly, and you have refused.
Stop.
So we're done.
Stop. 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 Stop talking. Next question.
No, this deposition is adjourned. Madam Court Reporter, do you have an estimate for how long it would take you to generate a transcript?
May we go off the record?
We go off the record, please.
Mr. Romero, may we go off record?
No. Sorry, this is a rough case, and she's going to lie and say that I did things off the record, so I'm sorry, we're going to have to do this on the record.
Give me one moment, please. Friday by noon. Would that be soon enough?
That's fine. Thank you, Madam Court Reporter. Thank you for your time. Thank you to Mr. Wright. I'm sorry, Mr. Gonzalez, that your lawyer didn't see fit to pursue your case in this proceeding and instead is prosecuting issues related to his other client.
Talking to my client.
Thank you for your time today and your professionalism.
Stop talking to my client. Stop talking to my. We're not off the record.
We're adjourning.
Stop talking to my client. Please don't ever talk to my client again. Oh, she left. So since we're still on the record and she left, I would also like an expedited transcript, which is why I wanted to stay on the record. And I have nothing further. Thank you very much. They've walked out. Goodbye.
Okay. Then I will read it out. This concludes Volume 1 of the deposition of Deputy Jaime Juarez in the matter of Gonzalez versus County of Los Angeles. We're now off the record. The time is 11:52 a.m. Pacific time.